Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game Milwaukee. We have a very special guest today, Jessica Katzenmeyer. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me and having me here with you guys and allowing to share your space with me this evening. And I really appreciate this a lot. How are you this evening?
I feel like this is a long time coming. We keep bumping into each other left and right, and this just had to happen, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It did. I mean, I've been in politics for, I guess you could say, quite a while now with various different things. And I'm glad that we're finally able to get this done and to share my story and share the message out that we need to convey to people, especially within our community.
Yes. So, for those who don't know, Jessica's a candidate for U.S. Congress and a member of the City of West Dallas Plan Commission and local community activist in the LGBT community and advocate for domestic violence. Did I get it right?
Yes, yes, you did.
So first question and a nice icebreaker. Tell us about yourself.
So I am an openly transgender woman. I am proud and honored to be the first ever transgender candidate in the state's history here from Wisconsin. So when this primary here in August, I will be the second ever openly trans person to win their party's nomination nationally and the first from our state. That's going to be quite an honor, and I've been working really hard on this race. I've been in Wisconsin for well over 25 years now. I graduated from UW Milwaukee with a degree in communication and a minor in political science. I've always been interested in politics. I was a former member of the Teamsters Local 344 for over 12 years when I was with UPS. I served on their political legislative committee as elected secretary for 3 years, so I've already had a lot of leadership experience with that, as well as various committees such as employee relations to safety with UPS too. I am a graduate of Emerge Wisconsin in 2017. So for those who don't know what Emerge is, it's a program that trains Democratic women on how to run for office and how to win elections in the state. And then I also graduated from the LGBTQ Victory Institute out of DC back in April of 2020 when I ran for state assembly. A little bit about my history. I am a transgender woman. I've been living as female now. It'll be 8 years on April 2nd, so I'm excited about that. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I'll be 43 here in a couple weeks here too, so I got my 43rd birthday coming up. And a little bit about my transitional journey. It hasn't been easy for me. When I was married to my ex-wife, back in 2006 when I got divorced, I had survived domestic violence from that relationship because I was exploring my gender at the time, and she didn't accept me for who I was and would resort to violence when she got mad at me, and I had to get out of that relationship, and the door finally was open for me to start the whole process of transitioning in 2013. It's been the best experience of finally living who I am as a person, who I've always believed who I am, and just being you, just being everyday me. It's amazing. So a couple years ago, and this is kind of how I got into running for office, 2019 on a Father's Day, I was renting a house in West Dallas for nearly 3 years at the time, and it burned down due to an electrical fire. And the next day, I was in Shorewood. They were passing through a conversion therapy ban for minors in Shorewood. I still showed up in what I had left, my raggedy clothes. I was dirty. I'm sure I was a little bit smelly. I still testified for passing the conversion therapy ban, which ended up passing unanimously. And then after we got home, my friend and I, who I was staying at, I collapsed on our floor at about 11:30 at night. I remember calling out to her, "I can't breathe." That was the last thing I remember. I fell into a coma. I woke up 3 days later on a Thursday at St. Luke's Hospital here on the south side of Milwaukee, and I found out I nearly died from a staph infection in my lungs. And I was in the hospital for a week. It would have cost me $80,000 to save my life. And this is why I'm running for office, because nobody should ever have to worry about going into debt or filing for bankruptcy over medical bills. I got better, I got stronger. 7 months later, I filed for a candidacy for State Assembly in District 15 back in January of 2020 against Joe Sanfilippo. I became the closest ever person to beating him as a challenger. I was within 10 points, within 3,000 votes, formally named in 3 different national LGBTQ magazines as a candidate to watch that year. And now I decided to run for Congress because many people feel like I could do the same thing where I could turn a red district purple. And they know about my work ethic. They know how hard I work, how well I convey my messages, and that I am a great organizer. And I'm so excited for this race. I've been in this race since early October now. And we're looking to make history and looking to pave ways out here in these districts because these red areas, these small towns that's in my district, this is where activism really needs to happen. And I think that there's not enough activists that go out to these small towns and say, hey, look, we're visible. Look at me, I'm trans. These are actually real people. And that's one of the things I hope to change too and inspire more LGBTQ people to step up to the plate and run for office because we need representation in our elected officials.
Wow. It sounds like you've been through a lot.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I know it's kind of a long story.
No, I didn't know a lot of that. I'm sure a lot of people didn't know that. And it's amazing how we can start at one point and then end up completely and much further along than we ever would have realized or dreamed, hey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I get the typical feeling of sympathy for when I went through domestic violence, but honestly, it's made me a much stronger person of who I am today, and I'm able to advocate for domestic violence victims and show other people that, hey, you're not alone. We're here to help you. And I've traveled statewide. I've traveled across the state for that, as well as to advocate for LGBTQ rights too. And it's my pleasure to do this.
So, I'm going to go a little bit off script from the questions, but you brought up like Wisconsin is very segregated. It's very divisive. All of America is right now, to be honest. We're in a very rough patch where I look back at the Bush and Clinton years and look at it like those are the good old days of unity compared to where we are now.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a different landscape, but it's crazy to see how it is slowly changing over time. For example, Waukesha is the biggest city in my district. Believe it or not, behind Milwaukee and Dane counties, Waukesha has the 3rd largest amount of Democrats in the state. It's an area that's becoming more and more purplish to blue.
Yeah.
It's because a lot of people are moving out from the city. And this is also including these other cities like Oconomowoc is in my district, Wauwatosa, West Allis there. I won West Allis in 2020 in my state assembly campaign over Joe Sanfilippo that year. Greenfield, all these little cities, like even West Bend, there's Democrats up there. So
yeah. Let me get back to these questions. I can listen to all day. So tell us about Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District. What makes it special, and what opportunities exist that you can help them with?
Well, it's a different district. It's a big district. We have parts of 6 counties: Walworth, Milwaukee, Waukesha, Washington, Dodge, and Jefferson counties. And then over 1,300 square miles. So for those of you who are familiar with Wisconsin, you got the I-94 corridor that runs between Milwaukee and Madison. So you go from the Dane County line all the way up to West Allis, where I live. That's the whole 5th Congressional District out there. We're 85% rural, 15% urban. It's hard to kind of believe the statistics, but that's the statistics of it. 725,000 registered voters in this district. Traditionally, a red district is an R+1 in the ratings, but or R+11. I apologize, I misquoted that. But I see opportunity here. I see opportunity to win over independents, win over liberals in this election, and I'm facing off against Scott Fitzgerald. So for those who don't know, he's a crazy election conspiracy theorist from 2020. Former state Senate majority leader here in Wisconsin who voted to decertify the election results in Congress 3 days after he was inaugurated in his first term of Congress. And now, a couple weeks ago, he was linked to renting a room at the state capitol for the fake electors. So now he's going to be under federal investigation charges. And this is who I'm going up against. And I feel like we have a great chance here to make a lot of gains in this campaign.
Wow, that's a lot too. Well, I know we touched on division in America and in Wisconsin. Where do you see yourself in unifying us, bringing us together? Because we really do have to come back together sooner or later. It's gotten just to new limits of craziness with just how divisive and separated we are.
Mm-hmm. I would totally agree. I think that it's very important for the LGBTQ community and for all of us as Americans. We do need to come together because we are better when we are stronger. This is how we've made so many gains in LGBTQ rights over the last, I would say, 15, 20 years. We know how hard it took to get marriage equality through and to make that the law of the land. But now with the makeup of the Supreme Court, I am worried about that as among other things, that a lot of the hard work that we've done, a lot of the protesting, the marches, that, it could be taken away. And we have to be vigilant. We really do. And that's all different races, all of us in the wide spectrum of this community. And it's just so important. We need to show our love to each other because we understand the struggles that each of us go through, even though the struggles I go through as a transgender woman may be different from someone who's gay or lesbian, but we understand each other. We need to be there and lift each other up.
There truly is more in common, isn't there?
What?
There truly is more in common, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there is. We're all humans at the end of the day, and being who we are is our human right.
Yes. So there are many ways to serve. Why Congress?
Well, why Congress? I had, a lot of people were pretty impressed with the way I ran for state assembly a couple of years ago, and I had a pretty decent feeling I was probably going to be drawn out of that district. I was living right at the corner, like the literal corner of 70th Street and Greenfield Avenue. That was 2 blocks away. That was like one edge. And with the redistricting that's going on. And a lot of people pushed me to run for Congress because they think that I have a great message. I have a story behind my message. I'm a very energetic candidate. They love to hear me speak. And they think that with my hard work ethic, that I can do the same with a congressional district as I did with an assembly district 2 years ago. And we'll have to see what happens. It's going to take a lot of work. And you know what? With my platform that I have now, I can advocate for us for the transgender rights and being that visible transgender person in some of these really red areas. And you know what? It's going to force people to have conversations about me. Like, parents are going to have conversations with their kids. I don't know how many of these are going to happen, but I know they happen in 2020, but they're going to happen on a larger scale, whether they hate me or they don't. And I know I've already faced a lot of hate as it is, but you know what? It gives me motivation that keep on going because I know my message is getting out there and I know we're making a difference. The haters are going to hate. I don't pay attention to them. I keep moving forward, keep focused on my end goal.
Yes, I think as a person of color, or if you're a woman, or in the LGBT plus community, you know the value and importance of keeping the conversation going. Mm-hmm. And I said it before, and I say it again, when we stop having the conversation and pushing the conversation, everyone stops having the conversation.
Can I make a point about that? Just like as I advocate for domestic violence victims, it took me a while to get comfortable talking about it. Like, it probably took me about 10 years to feel really comfortable and confident in myself that I can advocate for the victims because I knew it needed to be done. We have to have these tough conversations, whether it's LGBTQ topics or stuff like sexual assault, harassment, violence, because how are we going to make progress if we don't?
Yeah. And we're in this day and age now where a lot of people's consciousness and the collective is just, we're all being forced to talk about these things, whether it's good, bad, light, ugly, empowering, tough. We're gonna have it. We're all gonna have it together, and we're all gonna move at the same time.
And like I said before, like even if the conversation is negative, they're still having a conversation about it, right?
It's important we do so. So let's move on to the next question. We're gonna focus this on the transgender rights lens. There have been a lot going on around transgender rights, equality, equity, and the ability to even participate in things like sports. In state legislature across the country, they're even considering legislation establishing limitations. What are your perspective on these initiatives? And also, I know you want to talk about trans youth as well.
Yeah, well, most of these bills are being introduced here at the state level in Wisconsin are targeting trans youth. And it just makes me sick that the other side, the GOP, the Republicans, are targeting trans youth because they're the ones that are really exploring who they are at this time of life. They're really self-conscious of who they are and trying to figure out what their path is in life. And, when I was in school, I remember when I was that age, I was bullied a lot. I never really felt like I fit in. So my heart goes out to these kids and what they're going through. And now, for maybe a young trans woman, like they can't participate in female sports if they get these bills through. It's so sad. And you know what? In these bills, there's even clauses that say that if a parent challenges a person's gender, they'll have to go through a physical examination from a doctor. And can you imagine if you are a trans youth and you have to go through a physical examination? Like, how violating is that? For real. Honestly, what does it matter? Why can't we just live with who we are as people? And, I honestly don't feel like, well, I'm 43 years old now, so I'm probably past any athletic time I have left in my life. But back in the day, if I was transitioning when I was younger in life, I honestly don't think I would still have an advantage over a male or another female in a female sport. So that's kind of my perspective on it. And then the other bills that we're talking about too is there are some anti-trans healthcare bills that's going to prohibit providers from providing basic healthcare services. When it's just so sad to see these communities just continually attacked.
Yeah, I'm non-binary, so I can't speak to the trans that was going on now, but it would seem so violating, especially because I remember I think all of us know what it feels like to be in high school around that time period and kind of still figuring it out and being maybe insecure, and a lot of these things in the LGBT plus community aren't talked about still in school, so there's a lot of figuring out we have to do on our own. So when others are taking it into their own hands and saying what we should or shouldn't do, I can only imagine.
Right. And as you know, in our community, especially for the minors or under 18, they're scared to come out to their parents too in many situations because they become homeless. They get kicked out of their homes, are disowned by their own families. And we have, things like suicide rate is high in the LGBTQ community, including the trans community, because many people don't feel like they're accepted or loved by the people they really want to be loved by. And that's your family. When I came out back, several years ago, oh God, it's been so long now, but I remember that my biggest fear was gaining the acceptance of my parents, who are very conservative. And it took them a while to come around, but my mom and I are like best friends now, and she will go clothes shopping with me, even though they're big time like Trump supporters. And that shows how we can still get along. We just kind of forget about the political side of stuff. And the awesome thing is they support me running for office. And I wanted to relay that message, like, you know what, let's show some love. Let's, let people be people who they are.
I have to plug this in too. I still have trans women that are coming out and to their families and stuff, and I'm so proud of them. But what is some advice you could give to them? Because that's a lot coming out to family members and, at any stage of your life. What's the best advice you can give? Because I feel that the best person to go to is another trans person, so tell it.
I think my mistake, if I were to do it all over again, I'd probably come out sooner than when I did. Because when you come out, you have the phrase of coming out of the closet. It is very liberating. You do feel like you're finally free. So my advice is, and I was told this too before I came out, and this is from my good friends back at the time, is they said, you're going to find out who your friends are really fast. And you know what? If people are going to hate you when they come out, then they're not on your side. They're going to be toxic people in your life. Get rid of them. They're not going to support you. Surround yourself with people who are going to support you. And honestly, it's very brave and it's very tough to do. I get that. Just figure out when the best time is, and then you can start really truly living as you. That's kind of probably my best advice I could give.
Yeah. I know we're saying this, and to anybody that's watching, it may sound so as a matter of fact, but trust this, you heard it here, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know it's hard for me to, because every situation is different.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's situations where you're going to have loving families, you know, who are more accepting of the LGBTQ community, and then you're going to have families that maybe are not. And honestly, I think the sooner you can get to living as you is probably the best advice as I can give, because I wish I can, if I were to do it over again, I would transition when I was 21 instead of 35 when I started puberty again. It's tough when you're 35 and going through puberty. But
it's important.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
It's important we talk about it, because I think particularly with trans women, there's not always a guidebook for it.
There isn't. And, you know, honestly, when I first started the process of having to look for a therapist who will see me for the pre-HRT therapy, for HRT is hormone replacement therapy for those who don't know it. And you have to go through, see a therapist for at least 6 months. And they have to write a letter to your doctor saying, okay, this person's approved for hormones, and they know what they're doing. I had to go find a therapist who was going to see me. And here in Milwaukee, the LGBTQ Resource Center is where I ended up going first, because I had no idea what to do. It's not like you said, it's not like you have this directions, you know, like you do at the back of a pill bottle, or you're putting some Lego toy thing together. There's no really directional path to this. But this is what was told to me when I was doing some research. I did a lot of research, and I found a therapist actually in Madison. So I had to travel to Madison once every 2 weeks for an hour-and-a-half session that cost $90 out of pocket. So, and then that was the beginning of my transitional journey. And when I got that first shot of estrogen, I was like, oh yes, I can finally do this.
All right, last question. Every generation has its challenges, and things may get better over time. What is the advice you have for the next generation of activists, political candidates, and what difference do you want them to make?
Well, one of my goals is, and I've said this to a lot of people, is even if I lose this election, and I said this back in 2020, I hope to inspire many others in the LGBTQ community, especially the trans community, that, hey, look, I'm doing this. You can do this too. You can make a difference. You can have a big impact. And you know what? We need more representation in our elected officials, because when we have more representation, then change the way that we want to is more likely to happen. That's how we are going to make progress in the LGBTQ rights field. And, you know, I know that, yes, I lost my election in 2020, but my impact, it was felt statewide. I still have people go up to me, oh yeah, I remember you when you ran for Assembly in 2020. I was following your campaign. And it means the world to me. And that's why I said, don't be afraid to do it. And I guess that'll probably be my advice to the younger generation. There's no roadmap to this, but never be afraid to be who you are. Never be afraid to speak up. And you know what? Like I said, speak up. You have a voice. Use it. That's how you make a difference. Don't feel afraid to sit back and just let things happen to you, because you're not going to make a difference if you stay quiet. And that's one of the things I had to learn about myself. So that's probably some of the biggest advice I could give.
Well, I gotta say, sometimes in Wisconsin it could feel like, why me or why here? But you know what? There's a reason why each of us are here. And I do think all of us, you included, move the needle. And I'm just so proud of you. Your story just almost got me tearing up over here.
Thank you.
It's so important.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And like I said, don't be afraid to be who you are, because we're all unique in our own ways. We're all beautiful. We all deserve to be loved for who we are as people. We all deserve to be validated, of whether you're transition male, female, whether you're gay, straight, lesbian, it's our human right to live as who we are. And we need to always remember that. Nobody can ever take that away. If somebody gives you a lot of hate for it, Don't let it bother you. I know it may be hard, but you know what? Just kill them with kindness. And that's what I do.
I like that. Kill them with kindness. All right, Jessica. We're going to wrap this up, but please never stop doing what you're doing. It matters. You make a difference, and we see you.
Thank you. Can I give my information out for people who want to follow my campaign? Is that okay?
Yes. Let's plug it in now. We'll put it at the bottom of the screen, too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So my website is www.jessicafowis.com. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Jessica4WIS. And then my Twitter is at JessicaFORWIS. Please give us a follow. The other thing too, like we need things like donations too. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. I mean, even donations like $5 helps a long way to get our message out. Helps a long way to get our change happening the way that we need to in this district. And I appreciate you all and your support. And never forget being who you are as people.
Yes. Please come back anytime. Anytime.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Oh, much love. All right, everyone. You heard it here. We're here at Milwaukee, signing out.